Easter begins with women going to a tomb. So it begins with death, a place of death. The women are going to honor their beloved dead, to complete the burial rites of their people. And then the angel breaks in. The message from God comes to them. He is not here. He is risen. And so the church has very often described burial services as Easter liturgies. They talk about how God breaks in to the reality of death, how there is more. But I've often sat and looked at the family. They're usually right here in this pew. And there, right there, is the Paschal candle at the funeral, and either the casket's here or the urn of ashes is there. And it doesn't feel like Easter for them. It's a place of shock. Their faces look numb, eyes sometimes glassed over. They're enduring sort of the marathon of the funeral day and the funeral event. They're exhausted from not sleeping well and stress. It's a very hard place. And that's the place where the women were coming. And it's a place that was shared with Jesus' mother and family, who saw their good son, their dear brother, very horribly killed. It's a place where the disciples were as they lost the one that they followed, the one who was guiding them, kind of showing them a whole new way of life and being, and it's just gone. And really the crowds that welcomed Jesus, who saw healings and heard this wonderful teaching, thought maybe the world's going to finally get right. And it just gets crushed. So we honor that place, and sometimes we're in that place. And when we say that a burial is an Easter service, we don't mean that as some sort of glib thing like you'd paste a smiley face on the coffin and put a big thumbs up next to the ashes or something. We just know how wrong that would be. And into this place of death and shock and disillusionment and hurt and pain comes this message. And notice how it talks so much about looking and seeing. The women are going to see the tomb. And when they get there, and everything kind of implodes, the angel says, you come looking to see Jesus, who was crucified. He is not here, he is risen. Come and see the place where he lay, and then go and tell his disciples that he is going ahead of you to Galilee. There you will see him. And so the women, it says, are afraid and joyful. It's just confusing. And as they leave, it's almost as if Jesus couldn't even wait for Galilee. He appears. He shows himself to Mary and Mary. And they see him. And he says again, go tell my brothers that they will see me. I'm going ahead of them, and they will see me. And then it's again like Jesus can't wait. So Mary Magdalene runs to the men and says, I have seen the Lord. But they don't really accept that. And so Jesus comes to them and shows himself to them in that upper room. And so then they tell Thomas, who wasn't there, "We have seen the Lord." Thomas isn't so sure. And then Jesus shows himself to Thomas. "See my hands. Touch my wounds." And then there were the two people who were journeying to Emmaus. Some think it was a couple, husband and wife. And they're cast down and discouraged and talking about what happened. And Jesus comes alongside them, and they don't recognize him for a while. And then when he breaks bread with them, it says their eyes are open and they see. And then they run back and say, "We have seen the Lord." And the disciples say, "Yes, he is risen. We have seen him too." And then finally, the disciples are fishing. And they look on the shore and they see a man. And suddenly John sees it's the Lord. All these stories. You will see him. No matter what place you're in. For you who are in a place of grieving and loss and hurt and pain, you will see more. He is not here. It is not here. It's not over. There's more going on. You will see. And if we're in a place of discouragement about our world and disillusionment and frustration, he is going ahead of us. We will see. God is moving. God is working. We don't understand it. We can't grasp it. But you will see. If you're a person who have heard other people talk about Jesus, that they have seen him, they know him, they experience him, it's a part of their life, and you have not seen that, you don't experience that, please wait with us, as Thomas waited. You will see. He is out ahead of you. He is going ahead of you. You will see. He will show himself. We don't know how, when. It's always a surprise. And you who have seen and have been touched by the Lord, who is alive, who is risen, hold on to him, worship him, serve him, love him, honor him, and let your life be your witness. Last night, I gathered at this altar, and there were about 60 children plastered around the altar rail. And I asked them about the story that was read. What did the angel say? And the first thing one of the children said was, "Do not be afraid." Exactly. Not that we don't hurt, not that we don't struggle, not that we aren't discouraged, but be not afraid. He is risen. He is not in the tomb. You will see him, and you will see that there is more and more and more. Thanks be to God.